What if the thing that's made you feel like an outsider your entire life is actually the rarest psychological gift on the planet? You've probably sat in a room full of people and thought, why does no one seem to think the way I do? Not in an arrogant way. In a lonely way. Like you're watching life through a window instead of actually living inside it. If that hit a little too close, stay with me. Because this video isn't about putting you in a box. It's about finally giving a name to something you've felt your whole life but could never quite explain. The INFJ personality type is recognized as the rarest in the Myers-Briggs framework. Fewer than 2% of people worldwide carry this profile. And here's what makes that number interesting. It's not just rare in quantity. It's rare in depth. INFJs process the world differently. They feel differently. They connect differently. In this video, we're breaking down 8 specific signs that you might be an INFJ, backed by real psychological concepts, not just personality fluff. And at the end, I'm going to share something most INFJ videos skip entirely: how to actually use this personality type as a competitive advantage in your daily life. Let's get into it. There's a specific kind of loneliness that INFJs carry. It doesn't show up when you're physically alone. It shows up when you're surrounded by people, at a family dinner, a college party, a work meeting, and you still feel like you're somehow watching from the outside. Not because you're antisocial. Not because you dislike the people around you. But because your brain is operating on an entirely different frequency. While most people are engaged in what's happening, the conversation, the game, the food, your mind is processing what's underneath all of it. The tension between two people across the room. The way someone laughed a little too hard at their own joke. The emotional undercurrent running beneath a perfectly normal Sunday afternoon. Psychologists describe this inner experience as depth processing, where the mind doesn't just register events, it continuously searches for meaning behind them. And when you're wired that way, small talk feels like static. Ordinary moments feel strangely hollow. And the people around you, even the ones who love you, can feel unreachable in a way you can't fully put into words. That feeling isn't a flaw. It's your mind doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is, almost no one around you was built the same way. Have you ever met someone for the first time, everything looked fine on the surface, and yet something in you quietly said don't trust this person? No evidence. No logical reason. Just a calm, certain inner signal. And months later, you were right. This is the defining cognitive function of the INFJ type, what psychologists call introverted intuition. It's not mystical. It's neurological. Your brain is constantly collecting microdata, a pause that lasted a half-second too long, a word choice that didn't quite match the emotion behind it, a pattern repeated across 3 different interactions, and synthesizing all of it below the level of conscious thought. What you receive isn't the raw data. You receive the conclusion. A fully formed gut feeling with no visible calculation attached. That's why it can feel almost eerie. Like knowing the ending of a movie before it starts. The challenge for most INFJs is learning to trust that signal instead of immediately looking for logical proof. Because by the time the proof arrives, you already knew. Someone says, "I'm totally fine," and you feel it immediately. They're not. It's not the words. The words sound convincing enough. It's everything else. The way they typed that text with no punctuation. The slight drop in energy when they walked into the room. The way they're smiling with their mouth but not their eyes. Research in behavioral psychology consistently shows that the majority of human communication happens non-verbally, through body language, facial microexpressions, vocal tone, and timing. Most people process the verbal layer. INFJs process all the layers simultaneously, often without even trying. This makes you an extraordinarily attuned friend, partner, and listener. People feel genuinely seen around you, sometimes in ways that surprise even them. They'll say things like, "I don't know why I'm telling you this," but they're telling you because something in your presence communicated that it was safe. The shadow side of this ability? You can't turn it off. Every room you walk into becomes an emotional landscape you're automatically reading. And that's exhausting in ways most people around you will never fully understand. Someone snaps at you in a meeting. Someone ghosts you after a great conversation. Someone becomes inexplicably cold without any apparent reason. Most people's first instinct is to react, to defend, to withdraw, or to take it personally. Your first instinct is to understand. Something in you immediately starts searching for the root. What's going on beneath that behavior? What kind of pain would make a person act this way? What does this behavior say about what they're carrying? Not about me. Psychologists refer to this as cognitive empathy, the ability to mentally step inside another person's emotional framework and understand their experience from the inside. It's different from just feeling bad for someone. It's actually modeling their inner world in your own mind. And for INFJs, this happens almost automatically. You can sit across from someone who's being difficult, dismissive, or even cruel, and rather than hatred, what rises in you first is curiosity. What happened to this person? That's not weakness. That's a rare and profound form of psychological intelligence. The kind that makes therapists, writers, teachers, and leaders who actually change people. This one is hard to explain to people who don't experience it. You walk into a room where an argument happened 20 minutes ago. The argument is over, everyone's calm, everything looks normal. And yet you feel it. Like the emotional residue is still hanging in the air, and only you can sense it. Or you spend an afternoon with someone who's going through a difficult time, and by the time you get home, you feel like you're the one who's grieving. Heavy, drained, hollowed out. Neuroscience has a framework for this. It involves what researchers call the mirror neuron system. Neural circuits in the brain that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing it. This system is the neurological foundation of empathy. In INFJs, this system appears to operate with heightened sensitivity. The emotional experiences of others don't just register intellectually, they register physically. In your chest. In your energy levels. In your body. Psychologists sometimes describe this as somatic empathy, empathy that lives in the nervous system, not just the mind. This is why certain environments, loud, chaotic, emotionally charged spaces, don't just tire you out mentally. They deplete you on a level that takes real, intentional recovery to restore. You're not being dramatic. Your nervous system is doing significantly more work than most people's. That's just the truth. Small talk is not just boring to an INFJ. It's genuinely, physically draining. Standing at a networking event talking about weekend plans and the weather doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels like expending real energy for zero return. Like running on a treadmill that's going nowhere. But put that same INFJ in a one-on-one conversation at 1 a.m. about childhood fears, personal philosophy, or what people regret most at the end of their lives. Suddenly there's unlimited energy. Suddenly time disappears. Social psychology research shows that meaningful conversation, the kind that involves genuine self-disclosure and emotional depth, actually activates the brain's reward circuitry differently than casual interaction does. For INFJs, that difference isn't subtle. It's the difference between a conversation that feeds you and one that empties you. This is why many INFJs are often misread as introverts who dislike people, when the reality is they deeply love people. They just need the conversation to mean something. They'd rather have one friendship that goes 100 miles deep than 10 friendships that stay permanently on the surface. There's a pattern that shows up quietly in almost every INFJ's life. A friend calls in crisis, and even though you're exhausted, even though your own week has been brutal, you show up. Fully. Completely. You listen for 2 hours. You say exactly the right things. You help them carry something they couldn't carry alone. And then you hang up the phone, sit in the silence of your own apartment, and realize, nobody asked if you were okay. INFJs are wired toward what psychologists sometimes call prosocial motivation, a deeply internal drive to reduce the suffering of others. Helping doesn't just feel good. It feels like purpose. Like the reason you're here. And that's genuinely beautiful. But it carries a real shadow. Because when your sense of worth becomes tied to how much you give, you become vulnerable. Vulnerable to people who take without reciprocating. Vulnerable to chronic exhaustion. Vulnerable to losing yourself inside other people's needs. The sign isn't just that you give a lot. It's that you give so naturally, so instinctively, that you sometimes have to be reminded, by your own body shutting down, that you needed rest 20 miles ago. People who know INFJs often describe them the same way. The most understanding, patient, forgiving person I've ever met. And then one day, without a dramatic fight, without a screaming match, without a long goodbye, the INFJ is simply gone. No second chances. No reopening of the door. No response to the texts. This is what the psychology community around personality types calls the INFJ door slam, and it shocks people every single time it happens. Here's the psychological reality behind it. INFJs are not impulsive people. Every decision goes through layers of reflection. That includes the decision to end a relationship. By the time an INFJ reaches that final moment of disconnection, they have typically extended patience through dozens of incidents. They have tried to understand. They have tried to communicate. They have tried to give the benefit of the doubt. The door slam isn't a reaction. It's the conclusion of a very long internal trial, where every piece of evidence was weighed carefully, and the verdict finally became undeniable. Beneath the softness, beneath the empathy, beneath the endless patience, INFJs have a core of absolute clarity about what they will and will not accept. And once that line is crossed beyond repair, the emotional withdrawal is total. Not out of cruelty. Out of self-preservation. If you recognized yourself in those 8 signs, here's what I want you to hold on to. The same traits that have made your life feel harder, the depth, the sensitivity, the intensity, those are not bugs in your system. They are the system. The ability to read people deeply, to feel things fully, to hold complexity without collapsing under it, these are extraordinary human capacities. The world just doesn't always build spaces that honor them. And yes, this personality type comes with real challenges. Burnout. Overgive. The ache of feeling perpetually misunderstood. But history's record on this type is worth noting. Individuals widely associated with the INFJ profile, quiet visionaries, empathetic leaders, people who moved the world through principle rather than power, they didn't succeed despite these traits. They succeeded because of them. Your depth is not a liability. It is your edge. Learn to protect your energy. Trust your intuition. Set limits without guilt. And stop waiting for the world to build a room that fits you. Build it yourself. If this video gave you something real today, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach the people who need it most. Drop a comment below. Which sign hit hardest for you? I read every single one. Subscribe if you want more content like this. We go deep here. That's the whole point. And if you want to keep going right now, the next video is sitting right there. I think you'll find it just as useful. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. You deserve that.